I hereby summon all my imps. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. Today I wanted to do a prediction on the next set that was going to come up. And I know what you're saying. How can you predict what the next set's going to come out? It just came out. It was Law and Order. Law and Disorder. And I'm sitting here going, no. I'm not going to predict that set. That would be too easy. We already know that came out. I'm going to predict the next set that's coming out, the actual next major set that's going to come out. Where we're going and what we're doing, and maybe some of the effects that we're going to. So one of the things that's been kind of interesting is if you've been watching this year all together, there's been kind of a secret theme behind this whole year that they haven't announced. And I'm going to call that basically B movies or classic movies. So the first set of the year was Monsters vs. Kaiju, with Under the Sea and with the big mechs and the big krakens and stuff like that. Kaiju versus mecha. Second season, second expansion, was Good Old Vampires. So where do we go after Vampires? Mecha and Kaiju? Why, we go to the next thing that makes sense. Werewolves, or in World of Warcraft's case, Worgen. So I think we're going to Gilneas next. That's where I actually think we're going next. And some of the things that make me think that we might be going there is a couple of different things. Number one is the fact that in duels, you can play as Darius Crowley. You don't play as Timekeeper Toki, you don't play as Tess Greymane, you don't play as Hellmaster Shaw, but you can play as Darius Crowley, and he's the only one from the Monster Hunt that actually has his effect of the cannons. Another thing that I found sort of interesting is if you go into your collection, and you go into Wild, and you type in the word Worgen, you'll actually see that there are some Worgen cards, but more interesting, you'll see that the amalgams are considered Worgens. It'd be very interesting to have the amalgams be considered Worgens if you're never going to bring out a Worgen type. Now, it would be kind of weird to have the same year that you came out with Magus be the same year that you came out with Worgens, but there's also the same year that you came out with Locations. And if you go into Mercenaries, some of the newer Mercenaries are now going to be considered a Worgen type. One of the new Mercenaries, let me see if I can find them real quick. Gang Greymane has a human form and a Worgen form. Now, that just changes in battle. But if you go through the tags, if you ever fight in Mercenaries, you'll actually see that there is a Worgen tag in Mercenaries. And it would be really weird to just put one Worgen tag on just enemies and not use it for anything else. So I think we're going to Gilneas. And I've had a keyword to be. I've had a So I've got two major ideas, one of which I've sort of figured out and one of which I've kind of figured out. So one of which is Nightfall. And basically what Nightfall is that on your turn it's daytime and on your opponent's turn it's nighttime. And basically Worgen are known for transforming back and forth. So when it's not your turn, your Worgen would actually turn into their Worgen form. And when it is their turn, they turn into their human form. They keep the same stats and the same damage. But maybe they would do something different when it's not your turn. Maybe they would gain taunt or poisonous or divine shield or something like that when it's not your turn. So they could be defensive and not aggressive. And another one that I had is that werewolves and Worgen are known for being infectious. When they bite somebody, when they scratch somebody, when they deal damage to somebody, they become a werewolf or they are slowly going to die because of that infection. And there actually is a mechanic in Battlegrounds, in Mercenaries, known as Bleed. And it can be kind of interesting to see Bleed be used as a keyword in normal Hearthstone as an actual key mechanic, because it's an interesting mechanic that just basically says that every single turn, your minion that got hit with that bleed effect is going to take a little ting of damage on it. The only issue with it is that at least in Mercenaries you can heal off bleed. If you put enough healing on something, the bleeding will stop. And I would like that not to happen. To be kind of interesting to have something where if you got touched, you did an instantaneous die, like poisonous would. But you would have something that is slowly gonna die. So you have to trade it in. You have to use it. You have to get rid of it. Otherwise, it's gonna die. Kind of like how the Warlock spell works, where it puts your cards into burn status, and if you don't use them in 2-3 turns, you're going to lose those cards. So you do have the technology, because the problem with old-fashioned Worgens is they did put Worgens in the game when Witchwood originally came out, and they flipped back and forth, but they just flipped their stats back and forth, and it was each and every turn. So if you drawed them, they were always human, and then the next turn they would turn into Worgen, and then the next turn they would turn back into human. The problem with that is that if you had got them on the wrong cycle, it was really hard to use them, and the flipping back and forth never made them into interesting, cool cards. I'd like something more permanent than that. I had a couple ideas where if you were below a certain health, they would just all become Worgen. If you were below a certain card, like if it was if it wasn't the first 10 cards in your deck, then they would become Worgen. So maybe something like that, like Transform or something like that effect. I don't know what you would call it, but it'd be kind of nice if you had something where it's if you've drawn 10 cards already, or if this wasn't in the first 10 cards that you had, including your starting hand, then it would become a Worgen. So that way it would be kind of more of a mid-late game strategy where it's so hard to have a card that's a 1-2 on 1 and play it on turn 4 and have it be kind of any effective. And I'm just not sure what keyword I would use for that, but it'd be kind of interesting if if it's not the first 10 cards, then you right now the one that I have is just is either the day-night cycle, which would be kind of hard to figure out how to do a day-night cycle and have it very obvious, because one of the things that I had with that was a location where it would flip it from day to night on your side. But you could call it like blood moon or something like that as a neutral location and just have it flip from day to night. But I'd also kind of like to see something where, if it's not, when you get to mid-game, the card's better. When you get to end-game, the card's better. So maybe you could do something where it's like, if it's not the first 10 cards, it gets +2/+2 on both of its stats. And if it's not the first 20 cards, it gets +4/+4. And then you do other stuff with like spells that would have that effect. That's the problem. The thing about Infuse is that Infuse works on both creatures and spells. I mean, Trade was creatures and spells. I'm not sure there's been any... No, I shouldn't lie about that. Has there been one where the keyword has... Not Infuse, Frenzy could only be on creatures. You couldn't put Frenzy on a spell. I don't know how you make a spell that have Frenzy. So it would be okay to just have creatures that would have that effect. Although it'd be kind of interesting if you made it so you could deal with spells also. Like maybe the spell gets, instead of drawing 1, if it's not the first 10 cards in your deck, it draws 2, and if it's not the first 20 cards in your deck, it draws 3. That could be kind of interesting. Kind of nicer to play mid-game and end-game stuff at that point. So, I think that's where we're going next. I think we're doing Worgens. I think we're doing Galneas. I think this whole set has kind of been a monster B-movie secret set that they didn't announce. But please take everything that I'm saying with a huge grain of salt. The last one I did for a prediction was the other side, and it turned out to be Law and Disorder. I personally thought that the other side would be way cooler than Law and Disorder. So, please take everything that I say with a grain of salt, but I think we're going to Galneas next. I think we're going to see some Worgen come out. I think maybe next year they'll actually put the Worgen tag into the game, but we'll see. We're definitely getting Death Knights, but it's going to be after Worgens come out. I think you're going to see Worgens move into Icecrown Citadel, and that's when we're going to bring in the Death Knights as kind of a final thing. Like, you might go to there in the next mini set, not this mini set, but the next mini set might even be like ICC, just as kind of a crack into Death Knights, and that's where you get like your first Death Knight card. You might do a mini set with Death Knights, but I think Worgens is next. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.